The Baltimore Ravens' second preseason game is this coming Saturday, August 17th at 12 o'clock noon against the Atlanta Falcons. During the Ravens' first preseason game, we saw many good things mixed in with some other not-so-good things that the Ravens need to address. We saw some players who did fantastic and others who did so poorly, many fans were calling for them to be off the team already. Now, this is preseason, and while each game and each performance could cost a bubble player their job, what we're going to focus on is what the Ravens need to do in their second preseason game to improve overall as a team. So, let's now dive into what I want to see and what I don't want to see in Game 2 of this preseason. Let's get to it. Welcome in, everyone. This is Jordan with Ravens Flash Report, and today we're going to be discussing what improvements we want to see from the Ravens in their second preseason game this upcoming Saturday. As there are more things that I want to see from Baltimore, let's first discuss the things that I don't want to see in their second preseason game. Number 1, starters or potential starters. We know that we aren't going to see Lamar Jackson or Derrick Henry probably at all during the preseason, as well as anyone that's coming back from an injury like Kyle Hamilton. But after the injury scares with guys like Nate Wiggins and Sanusi Kane, I'm not really in the mood to see any other potential starters or important role players getting injured in a preseason game. Now, of course, you still have to field a team, and there still have to be 11 players out there, so I'm not saying don't play anyone. But Wiggins getting hurt in the third quarter was unnecessary. We knew within the first drive that Wiggins is exactly who we thought he could be, so no more guys like him or Trenton Simpson. The next thing that I don't want to see is any more kick returns by Pepe Williams. And not that he did a horrible job or anything, more so that it's simply with the new kickoff rules in place, there are a lot of potential to try different things, and seeing a few different players attempt kick returns will allow us to get a better understanding of what skill sets will potentially be advantageous going forward. The third thing that I don't want to see is technically two separate things: missed tackles and penalties. I didn't see many of either, but this team is well coached and game prep is extremely important to the Ravens organization, so giving up yards in any way that we don't have to is a no-no. Even if it is only a few, it's not a trend that I want to see continuing, so I'm hoping that the coaching staff will emphasize this going forward. The final thing that I don't want to see is John Harbaugh and the coaching staff treating this preseason game as if it's a regular season game. I understand that the players having the right mentality to win games is important, but at the end of the day, the preseason is for assessing who your best players are, what weaknesses you have as a team, and then making sure you're working to correct any of these mistakes or weaknesses before the start of the regular season. Basically, if I see Justin Tucker kick another field goal from inside the 20 in this game, I'm going to lose it. The Ravens go for it all the time on 4th and 1 and 4th and 2, but you don't want to see your backups try to do it? How is that not acting like it's a real game? Anyway, let's move on to the things that I do want to see. The first thing that I want to see ties somewhat into one of the things I didn't want to see, and that's not playing your starters or potential starters. What I want to see is our depth guys for a majority of the game. I want to see how Jalen Armour-Davis and Pepe Williams look, but just as importantly, I want to see how the guys that are backing them up look, like Kadar Hallman and potentially TJ Tampa if they put him out there. Tampa was cleared to practice, but we don't know if we're going to see him in a game just yet. The second, and along the same line of thinking, I want to see a whole game of Josh Ross at linebacker along with Chris Board if he's healthy enough to go. We saw a decent amount of guys like Deion Jennings and Yvonne Rigby in a later part of last week's game. I'd like to see them against some better competition in an earlier part of the game. Number 3, on the outside, I'd like to see some improvements from the pass rush standpoint from guys like Tavius Robinson, Joe Evans, and David Ajabo if he's cleared to play. We didn't have much pass rush at all last game, and I'd like to see if that changes a bit against Atlanta. Last thing for the defensive side of the ball, I want to know if our ability to stop the run has gotten better, especially up the middle. I think this improvement is probably the most important because on the defensive line, you're rotating guys much more often than you would on, say, like the offensive line. If guys are rotating in and out on the defensive line and they can't get pressure on a quarterback and they can't stop the run, that's pretty concerning in my opinion. We can't simply just rely completely on Justin Madubuike and Kyle Van Noy all season. Other guys have got to be able to step up. Moving on to the offensive side of the ball for number 5, the most important thing that we need to see an improvement on in this game is the quarterback play, and I think that's pretty obvious. If the quarterbacks aren't playing well and aren't throwing the ball accurately, we won't get to see the talent and development of our depth wide receivers. Coaches can call a decent game plan, but it's not going to work if the players can't execute. Along that same line of thinking, even though I wanted to just take a knee and settle for the tie last week, I think Emory Jones deserves at least a full drive on his own, because throwing him in at the very end of the game to simply get strip sacked doesn't seem fair. There are people out there calling for his job when he was simply trying to make a play and an impression with his only opportunity so far. I'm sorry, but I can't be too mad at that. Number 6, and we're going to move on to the wide receivers. I know that we want to give everybody at least a chance, but it's hard to evaluate talent when each wide receiver simply gets 1 or 2 passes thrown their way. I know we've got like 10 guys fighting for 1 or 2 spots, but even if you have to split them up into 2 groups where one group gets passes in the first half and the other gets passes in the second half or something, but there needs to be a better way of getting these guys more targets. Last game, we saw a decent showing from guys like Keith Kirkwood, Tylan Wallace, and Dayton Wade, but there are plenty of other players who I'd like to see get opportunities in this game. Guys like Sean Ryan, Kadir Ismail, Malik Cunningham, and even Devontae Walker. I know what I said before about not wanting potential starters out there, but Walker only got 1 pass. Nate Wiggins got at least 4. Moving on to number 7, another distribution that I'd like to see be a little more even is for the running backs. Now, it remains to be seen if Rasheen Ali is going to be able to go in the second game after reportedly getting a stinger at the end of the first, but I'd like to see more from Chris Collier in Game 2. I liked what I saw from Owen Wright, and I'm excited to see more from him, which I'm sure we will, but I feel like Chris Collier deserves more than a handful of attempts as well in this game. Now, my last point, number 8, in the last group that I want to talk about, is the offensive line. We saw a good showing from guys like Roger Rosengarten, Ben Cleveland, and Andrew Voorhees. I would like to see more from all 3 of these guys in this game, and I wouldn't mind seeing Cleveland take some snaps at right guard, with either Patrick McCarry or Nick Samak at center. Along with all of that, I would like to see more from Daniel Faalele, possibly rotating with Cleveland at right guard, and more snaps for Josh Jones out at left tackle as a potential swing guy if Stanley goes down at some point. Now, the Ravens front office and coaching staff are forward-thinking in their approach, so I don't think we'll see the same mistakes this week that we did last week. We may potentially see different ones, but like I said in the recap from Game 1, this is preseason, and the time to make mistakes is now so that you can address them. I'm really looking forward to this second game, and I'm looking forward to breaking it down afterwards as well. Let's just hope for everybody to come out of this game healthy, because we've already had enough injury scares for this preseason. Well, guys, that's pretty much what I want to see and what I don't want to see in this second preseason game. I'm curious what you guys are looking forward to in the upcoming game. So, like the video if you've enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and put your thoughts down below in the comment section on what you want to see or even don't want to see in the Ravens' second preseason game. As always, stay safe out there and go Ravens.